I think the question for us is being always what is next, right? What is left out of the relationship? How we can really understand our customers, our community, and really provide value.
Hello and welcome to Conversation by iAdvise. My name is Sonia, and today our Head of Innovation and Strategy, Terrence Fox, will be joined by Claudio Baptista. Claudio is the Director of User Experience at GoPro, and he will be talking about hyper-personalizing the customer journey. So stick around for the full interview.
Hey everyone, welcome to Conversation With, short conversations with CX leaders and innovators about preparing for tomorrow's consumer based on what we know today. When I think of GoPro, I think of incredibly unique footage and personal experiences that are therefore captured and shared with all. Naturally, personalization is at the heart of what they do. And actually, stealing a line from their mission statement, GoPro is geared to help their customers capture life as they live it and to share those experiences with the world and pass on the stoke, as they say. So it's my absolute pleasure to be joined by Claudio Baptista from GoPro. He has over 2 decades of experience in creating the perfect UX. Currently serves as the director of UX for GoPro and was previously leading the UX team for Walt Disney Studios. Today we're going to tackle hyper personalizing the customer journey. Claudio, how are you?
I'm doing great, Terrence. It's great to be here. Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to share some insights with your audience.
Yeah, absolute pleasure to have you here. So before we dive into the topic at hand, loaded question. How have you been? How have you been staying busy and engaged the past 14 months as we start to head towards normal?
Yeah, so it's been quite of a ride this last few months and last year specifically. I have two little kids, so keeping up with work plus homeschooling and all the craziness, it's been good.
Mm,
It's a bit of a challenge, but luckily we're very blessed that we kind of came unscattered of all this mess. So I think
yeah.
it's just being a lot of adaptation, a lot of being flexible, and a lot of ambiguity in the air. So, but again, keep as active as I can be, surfing, reading a lot, watching a lot of content, and still keeping up with work. So it's been a fun ride.
Yeah, so two kids. I have one. I can't imagine doubling it. So my hat's off to you. And is it a requirement at GoPro that you're a surfer if you work there?
It
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 must be,
it,
right?
it definitely helps, but it's not a
Yeah,
requirement. But we are all about an active lifestyle. So
right.
GoPro is one of the activist companies on the Bay Area and around the world. So we promote that. So it's a health conscious company.
Good.
And it's funny because you asked me about the last year, Terrence, and it's I left Disney end of November, started the beginning of December, so I actually did the jump. I got a new job through the pandemic, which was
Mm.
quite an impressive task, I guess, to
Yeah,
accomplish.
definitely. Could feel intimidating, I imagine. Absolutely. So, Claudio, before we dive into your perspective and what you feel comfortable sharing from the GoPro side, tell me a little bit about a memorable experience you've had as a consumer. Does anything kind of stand out for you in the past?
Yeah, there's quite a few that I can think of, but I think one that really kind of blew my mind when I got exposed to was through Tesla. And as you imagine,
Mm.
my wife ended up getting one of the cells prior to the COVID. We ended up not driving at all the car, but
Yep.
it's just the way the whole buy experience was set up, which is very innovative, very different than your regular dealership. To the way that you experience the product itself, the car, and how you get updates through. It's mind blowing how they are connected. They
Yep.
care about the UI on the dashboard all the way to the app and how we can communicate seamless between the touch points with the brand. It was quite an impressive feat. I haven't seen that level of uh, innovative approach to UX, to CX, to really taking care of the customer. I know they have a long way to go. Elon is busy with his own stuff and getting things better, and but It was quite of a unique experience. If you, I don't know if I have a chance to experience that, but it's quite unique.
Yeah, small anecdote. My so I'm one of five boys, and my older brother, he ordered a Tesla. I think a little before the pandemic, also, and it's unfortunately sitting in his driveway a lot. But I remember we were traveling. We were in Dublin, and he was getting a phone call at late at night in Ireland because his Tesla was being delivered. Right, such a cool way. Everything about the process seemed pretty innovative, thinking outside the box.
Yeah, it's a very memorable, and I think once you get to that level of experience, you start being a little bit more demanding about the other services. And of course, not every company is going to be a Tesla, but
Right.
it's just one of the things that is so well connected that makes your life easier. Indeed, it's really change your paradigm of what the service might be.
Yeah, absolutely. We had Shep Hyken on a few months back, and he's shared a soundbite I keep reusing, which is, your customers are no longer comparing you to just your competitors; they're comparing you to the best experience they've ever had, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Which is on the money.
Yeah.
Um, so let's dive in, Claudio. The topic we wanted to discuss today is hyper personalizing the customer journey. Let's start from the square one. What is hyper personalization? What does this all mean to you?
Yeah, so this is a good topic that I like. We are diving deeper and deeper at GoPro, but even then prior at Disney, it's all about relationships. It's all really getting deeper, more meaningful, ethical relationship with your
Mm,
consumers. So again, I think personalization being the concept is being there for quite some time. I think the evolution of the technology and the market to support the level of hyper personalization that is available nowadays was not possible. So hyper personalization is really a buzzword that came into marketing and UX and CX later a bit, but it's been there for a few years.
mm,
However, few companies were able to be structured and operating that level. So I think it's right now which opens up a lot of other discussions on the topic, right? So it's how can you get a personalization strategy that works, how to
right,
be ethical about it, how can we just because you could, it's not because you should use the data that way. But I think
right.
technology evolved quite a lot to allow us to stitch together these different data sources. I think consumers are exposing themselves to brands in a very unique way that didn't happen before. And the amount and volume of data that is available from first to third party data, it's quite phenomenal. So
Mm,
I think being able to finally start making sense of the data, aggregating together using machine learning and AI. So there's a lot to unpack, to be honest. And it really depends, Terence, on who do you talk to and
right,
what's your context, what company you work for. I think there's this holy grail of hyper personalizing journeys. And really, from a concept perspective, it's really diving deeper into the data and looking at more data sources, not only transactional and personal data, but we're looking at a behavior, we're looking at predictive analytics, we're looking at a lot of different sources of data to paint
mm,
the customer picture and the segment. So we can go in a really, really micro level of segmentation, which allows you to do predictive analytics and predictive CX and UX that you can interact in a deeper, meaningful relationship. But it's
right.
all about that. It's all about trust. It's all about relationships. And a lot of companies are just not ready to get there yet. There's a lot of investment in technology. It really takes the entire company to commit. And the way companies are structured via silos, that can be a barrier to get to a true personalization strategy. So there's a lot to unpack there. So it depends where you are, depends who you talk to, you might get a different answer. But this is where we are seeing nowadays companies like Amazon, streamers like Netflix, and they're pushing the boundaries in
Mm.
how to connect with you in a one-on-one basis. Marketing doing one-on-one marketing, and but it's still a long way to go for a lot of the other brands and companies. So it's a
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head, right? It's all about trust, relationships, but you also specified it takes a company's commitment to do so. right?
Uh,
Absolutely.
yes, you need to be. It's not easy. That's the thing about personalization. I think the idea of putting your name on a subject line on an email,
Hmm.
all good, but that's not what we're talking about here. What we're talking about is really the evolution of this. It's modular UX, it's modular UI, is your experience really being tailored to you and on a
Right.
one-on-one basis. And then that's what's incredible about this. But again, it can be used on a bad way. So the ethical approach to collection of data, usage, privacy, regulations, this all come into play. So how much too much? Are you being too creepy? Are you trying to predict way too much? So we have a yeah, there was I cannot show here, but there's a picture. I think it was a Twitter from a tweet from someone else that brought it up. Just because they bought toilet paper doesn't mean that their lives surrounding toilet papers and everything they
Hmm.
see next is toilet paper related. So it's
Right.
it's 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 a it's a double-edged sword. You have to be careful, but it's a phenomenal tool for marketers and user experience professionals and all companies to use if you can get there.
Yeah, and this is a good segue, naturally, Claudio. And I'll be upfront. I don't want a team of the executives at GoPro to kick down that door behind you and steal you for saying any trade secrets. So keep this as general as you need. But of course, how is GoPro taking on this hyper personalization stance to help stand out from competition?
Yeah, so again, unfortunately, I cannot share a lot of the work that's in progress right now, but GoPro has a huge mission and I think COVID accelerated their journey through D2C. So really, GoPro was a business that was relying a lot on licensees and the
Hmm.
retailing and going through partners. I think more and more companies are looking to own their relationship with the customer, really, and that's if you take a look even back from just an e-commerce landscape perspective, right? You have these huge marketplaces like your Amazons, your Tmall's, your Tmall's in China, and 50% of sales on e-commerce are happening through these huge marketplaces.
Hmm.
And it's very difficult for regular companies like GoPro or any other retailer to kind of match that level of service, your prime points or deliver next day and all that. So the question for us is like, what's left, right? Like if 50% of our sales are happening through these marketplaces, but again, a lot of these companies they are not interested in a relationship. They want the
Hmm.
transaction, they want the conversion. After that, you on your own go figure out your product might be a GoPro or not, but it's on you to keeping pace with the brand and what they do. So a lot of the companies, I think the question for us is being always what is next, right? What is left out of the relationship? How we can really understand our customers, our community, and really provide value. And I cannot tell you exactly what we're doing, but I'll tell you that the direct consumer pivot, it's definitely one of our key priorities. GoPro is really looking at deepen the relationship. We have an amazing community of content creators and
Right.
people that are really brand advocates for the company. GoPro has that's funny because when I joined, and everyone that I talk about the brand, and coming from Disney, it kept the same level of stoke between the brands. It's
Hmm.
people that look at the brand and say, "Wow, it's really cool that you work for this company. They're very unique in the way they approach the business and all." So definitely like be keeping that trust with our community, our consumers, but pivoting into understanding them better. And so personalization and hyper personalization, of course, there's technology advance that we need to do when restacking and thinking the company the way you operate in a way to
Hmm.
support a deeper personalization strategy. But I think we all want to say like is a huge component of the future.
And so, when thinking about the customer journey, Claudio, what do you feel are the necessary steps to really begin to tailor a relevant customer journey for those sorts of one-to-one relationships that you were talking about before?
Yes, I think Taylor. So this one, and again, I think technology plays a big part. I think it's again, as I mentioned before, we really are companies are really exposed to a volume of data that they were never seen before. Like the amount of data coming from social, coming from your first party properties and all. So I think from a play by play, a framework kind of structure, is really comes into that data collection and aggregation. That's step number one.
Mm.
How are we receiving these data feeds? How are we putting them together? And then you start making sense of the data and aggregating. And that's where machine learning can really help speed up the process. So really create a unified view of your customers. So customer segmentation and be able to really understand these cohorts and segmentation is kind of key. After that, of course, you start targeting their kind of funnels and journeys very in a one-on-one basis and start quickly measuring, optimizing, analyzing, and going back. And it's an ongoing effort. So again, all the things it needs to be powered by technology. So back in the day, again, we had these different systems that were somehow bringing data in, trying to aggregate, but it was never that easy. I think
Yeah.
with the advancements of CDPs, consumer data platforms, or CDXPs, experience platforms and consumer data, all of that's becoming an investment in machine learning and predictive analytics. All that's becoming a little bit easier.
Mm.
It's still a lot of investment from a company to make. I think there's a lot, and companies should be really looking at those four pillars. People, do they have the right skills do we have the right skills on board?
Yeah.
What is the process? Do we have the right process? Are we communicating? Are it just silo fragmented? Tools, technology, what are the tools necessary, and what are the parts that you need to kind of phase off, like, because again, you won't get to that level of personalization on the next day. It's
Mm.
really a long kind of term commitment of the company. So I think having those pieces in place, or at least having what the success state is for each phase, will help you kind of roadmap what should look like.
So, in with this big investment, the natural next question, Claudio, is how do you actually start to measure this, right? How do you measure impact, and does building these sort of one-to-one customer relationships, does it actually start to affect your bottom line KPIs? What can you share?
Yeah, so I think there's a lot there in terms of, and again, it works. That's the beauty of thing, and that's why companies
Mm.
are definitely investing on that. So, but it is a diligent. We go back to the people, process, and tools. You have to be diligent on measurements, and having a team from data analytics to consumer insights to UX, and keep up with this dynamic nature of personalization. So, being able to have a team that's looking very closely to the experiments, we have to have a culture of experimentation and testing and having A/B testing platforms and multivariate testing happening. And a lot of these things are driven by AI nowadays. So you have dynamic UI being completely so, looking from a UX point of view, how can we be modular? So our UI, whatever property that we're talking about, your websites or your e-commerce platform, if you're doing IoT, how can that evolve with your usage and really get to know you? Great example, Tesla again, start getting to know your behavior and tailoring the software to you and your usage. So again, measuring, it's ongoing. You have to have dedicated people, tools to do that. And you start seeing actually lifts in certain
Mm.
areas. You won't hit all the points at once. It's very rare, but it's small increments. You're gonna see how your bottom line might be affected. More lead generation, more conversion, more engagement. So you're looking at some KPIs. They are very key to the business, especially if you bypass the conversion cycle. So if you look down the road for retention, engagement, and all of that, you're gonna see how these meaningful journeys and this tailored customization of these journeys will be bringing you back as a consumer, and we start going back to that deeper goal, which is create a long-lasting relationship. So
Okay.
that's the ultimate prize.
And you mentioned earlier that it obviously takes a company commitment. So, glad GoPro, and that's not an issue, right? The team is committed to creating this sort of personalized engagement. But what sort of other obstacles are you encountering yourself on trying to create this hyper personalized journey?
Yeah, I mean, I think for every company, I think because it's not a finite type of work that you're just gonna, okay, we plan for this year and this year is done. It really is changing mindsets, really shifting paradigms, the way companies operate, to be able
Mm,
to really do a omni-channel type of approach, fully personalized to our customer segments and getting that to a micro level. It really takes a lot of changes, and I think that's the main barrier, because some companies are just not able to do those changes on time. So there's the financial changes that we need to. There's new tools and restacking your technology portfolio. So there's a lot of things that can get in the way to really fulfilling that vision. But
mm,
I think that, and that's why really breaking down a phased approach, define what success means, being able to measure and see those lifts slowly, incrementally, that's the key way to go about it. So, because again, you won't be able to completely flip a company upside down, big corporation, to be able to be fully prepared for hyper personalization or omni-channel approach. So
mm.
I would say just don't get too excited or get excited, but take the small wins and slowly start paving the road. You really go into the fundamentals, and some companies haven't been set up that way, the way they just the departments and structure, and the way they operate as an entire company. Sometimes it's just the way the hierarchy they were distributed. So being able to do that and bypass all these variables that you need to bypass, I think those are the biggest challenges. But slowly but surely, you progressing and moving forward. I think that's the key.
Well, Claudia, thank you so much. Any other parting words for our listeners as we head into H2 of crazy year?
Yeah, no, thank you so much, Terrence and team Fritz, for having me here. I think
Yep.
was a short and sweet chat. I enjoyed quite a lot, and again, I wish I could share more, but it's all good. You guys gonna see some of this good work coming out soon. Yeah, just thank you for having me here. I hope that your audience enjoyed.
Yeah, my pleasure. So thank you, Claudio, for joining us. Claudio Baptista, he's the head of UX at GoPro. Absolute pleasure to have you. And of course, go check out GoPro.com and pass on the stoke. Thank you all for tuning in. We'll see you next week.
Thank you. Bye bye.
A big thank you to Claudio for being a part of this discussion. We loved hearing about how important it is that an entire organization gets on board with personalization and ultimately works towards the goal of securing long lasting relationships with the customer. For more information, head to conversation.iadvise.com and follow Conversation on your favorite social media channels. We'll see you here next time. Thanks for watching. Bye!